So now we will see that what are the different biotic and the abiotic interactions taking place or are important from the marine biological point of view. As we know that wherever there is a, so mostly I will be dealing with the biotic interactions here, because in abiotic at the food at the ecosystem level we have already seen that how temperature, pH, salinity shapes the habitat or shapes the ecosystem, right? So mostly I'll be dealing here occasionally with the abiotic, but mostly with the biotic components. So first type of interaction is territoriality, right? So territoriality, you may be very well aware that all the wild organisms, wild animals do have the tendency to maintain their home range, and maintaining the home range could be because of the feeding area, could be because of the breeding area, in order to show the authority over a particular region, right? So that is the reason why organisms shows territoriality, right? Or otherwise, there are birds who are very much specific about their nest sites, so that can also be termed as territoriality. In the marine organisms, we generally do not see this territoriality, except in some of the marine mammals, that includes seals or sea lions or the fur seals or the walruses, which shows territoriality only mostly at the time of the mating behavior, right? And that could be because they are mating in the land, so land can be as a limiting resources for them, or otherwise the availability of the female in any particular location. So that kind of pressure is forcing them to show the behavior, that territoriality behavior, right? And one of the good example, as I said, that it's pinnipeds, and that pinnipeds includes those marine mammals such as seals, sea lions, fur seals, and the walruses, right? So that's how we can see that this is one example in the marine ecosystem where territoriality interaction happens. And another thing to remember is that these all type of interactions can have the benefits or can have the disadvantages. For example, if any organism or if any species or animal is showing territoriality, that can happen at the individual level or that can happen at the species level as well. So in that case, there is a huge chance that one will win, right? It means that it's a benefit for one, or it can be negative impact to both of them or any one of them. What does it mean is that whenever there is a fight for territoriality, then there is a chance that two strong males will fight, and that can cause injury to any one of them. So that injury can happen to that individual who is trying to invade into the area or territory, or it can also happen to that individual who is trying to save their territory. So that's why these kind of interaction can be either, I mean, positive for one, because definitely there will be one winner at the end of the day, at the end of the fight, but that fight can come at the cost of the injury or at the cost of the health. So it can be beneficial to one, or it can be beneficial to other, or it can be detrimental to both of them, right? Similarly, we see the examples for competition. In competition, again, competition can be for any limiting resources. That can be food, that can be space, that can be mating behavior, or it can be anything. So in that case also, if you see, similar to how the interaction for the territory, for the competition as well, you can have a benefit to one, whereas you can have the detrimental effect to one or both of them, right? Similarly, then we have the predation. In predation, one will be the winner, one will be the loser. It means that if the predators are coming, whether it is taking the prey, if it is happening, then it is beneficial to the predators and then detrimental to the prey, right? So that interaction. So there will be one plus and one minus. Now, commensalism and mutualism. So in commensalism, there will be benefit to one, but then there will be no effect to other. In mutualism, we all know that it will be benefit to both of them. And in parasitism, there will be benefit to one and then loss to one. Okay, so similar to how in predation one sacrifices the life, in parasitism it is not necessary that one sacrifice the life, but then it affects the fitness of the individual, or fitness of the fitness of the individual. So we see these six different type of interactions. In here, I will be focusing more on territoriality, that I already did by saying that there are not many species who are showing the territoriality. And one good example to understand here is sea lions, fur seals, and walruses, and that also in order to mate. So for the mating behavior. Now we will go a little more detail into the prey-predator relations. So with the predation, we can see that there could be two different type of organisms in the marine ecosystem, right? First is those organisms. Just a minute, yeah. First, those organisms which are sessile. It means that sessile means it is fixed at one particular location, and that you can understand in a way that there are seagrasses, there are seaweeds, there are sea anemones, there are corals. So it means all these organisms cannot move from one place to another place, so for example, here you can see anemone, right, in this particular example. So that can be called as sessile predators. Now there are second group of organisms which are mobile in nature. It means that they can travel, or they can move from one location to other location, and those predators are called as mobile predators, right? Since we are talking in terms of predation, these organisms are mobile predators, and those which are fixed at one location, that can be called as sessile predators. Now, even you can see one of the example here in the image. You can see that sea anemone is eating a crab. So anything which is coming near to these kind of predators which are fixed at one place, they will feed on it, right? So this behavior, I mean, this is a feeding, and this is being done by the sessile predators. However, in the second, you have the mobile predators. It means there are big fishes which are mobile in nature and moving from one location to another location for feeding, right? There could be several feeding strategies. They can be true predators. It means that they are specialized in catching the prey. There can be grazers, and then there can be parasites. So parasites do not have to do the do not have to show the true predator behaviors. They can simply stick to the other individual and get benefited, right? Whereas grazers are grazing mostly if we see, for example, on the benthic surfaces. So those are the grazers. Whereas true predators are those which are really fighting for food with the, and they have several adaptations, structural adaptations, or kind of biochemical adaptations in order to do the in order to feed themselves, right, for the predation. There is one theory which plays which which regulates, or which is a kind of understanding, that is a optimal foraging theory. So it is a behavioral ecological model that helps to predict how an animal behaves when searching for the food. So now we know that anything or whatever is happened in the ecology, I mean, at the evolutionary level, it is to increase the fitness of an individual, or fitness of a species, or fitness of a population, right? So all those phenomenon will be promoted, or will be utilized in order whichever maximize the fitness. So animal in the marine environment adopts a foraging strategy that provides the most benefit for the lower cost. It means that uh, if the food is coming at the lesser cost, that will be beneficial for any organism, right? So that is optimal foraging theory. And based on this particular theory, you can predict that how the predators are going to prey. The predators can be of two types. that they can be specialized or generalized. And again, two different models, according to two different models, uh, it has been categorized. First is that most of the predators, if the food density is high, then they choose to eat what they like or what provides them maximum fitness. So they can be specialized. And if the food density is low, they can eat whatever is available. That particular model is called as diet breadth model. Okay. Now there is another model. In which it says that time spent in a patch of a prey should increase with an increase of the travel between patches. So it means that if any predator has found a patch of the food, the time they are I mean that individual or that predator is going to spend in that particular patch is directly linked that how much time it has invested to find that patch, and that how much time the predator is going to take to find another patch, right? So based on all those things, these are some of the basics that how prey predator mechanism works in the marine environment, uh, right? Some examples here for which follows the diet breadth model is in the snails, which develops the olfactory imprinting for the clams. And then time in patch model uh, is a good example how the blue whales function in the open ocean, that the time spent in one patch is directly linked with how much time it has traveled to find that patch and how much time it is going to find another patch. So depending on that, they will spend the time in one particular food patch, right? So these are some of the basics of the predations. Now, in the marine animal, it is a quite a complex system, and then number of organisms are living in one particular environment. So there is always a conflict, and there is always a kind of very nasty fights going on among the organisms. And as a result, many of the organisms have developed a particular adaptation in order to increase their or in order to make them sustainable for feeding, right? For the foraging behavior. One such example you can see on my screen is a deep sea angelfish, right? Deep sea anglerfishes have, you can see a stalk, right? In this stalk, they have the bioluminescent bacteria. So the characteristic of this fish is that this fish are found below 2000 meters. So at that particular depth, you do not have the sunlight, so it is extreme dark. Now, in order to attract the prey, they have a stalk where they have the bioluminescent bacteria, and that produces light. And then now you can see the structural modification in the form of teeth, strong teeth, right? And then a mouth where the lower jaw is elongated. So what happens is that when the prey gets lured by the stalk having the light, the angler fishes will attack on that and then prey on it, right? So different photos of the angler fishes, and then this is also a paper description done by some artist, right? So you can see that they have adapted a light, and then they have a very sharp teeth in the deep sea, right? Similarly, not only in the deep sea, even in the shallow waters or in the reefs, there are organisms which has developed uh, special structures in order to make them more efficient in the prey catch. For example, in the cephalopods, we have cephalopods tentacles and the suckers. So you can see one of the example here in the squids. Okay, in the squids you see the tentacles, feeding tentacles, which goes little far and then what stuns the prey. If you look closely into the tentacles, you will see a lot of suckers, right? These suckers are made up of the protein called as succerin and are very strong. The strength is more or less similar or even higher than what the spider silk is, right? So it's a very strong suckers, and when they catch the prey with this suckers, it will create a kind of suction, and then the prey will not be able to move away. So this is not only in the squids, but also you can see this in the octopus. So octopus also have a tight grip because they have the suckers on the tentacles, and then that suckers will uh, create the suction and does not allow the prey to escape. Okay. So this is in the cephalopods, tentacles and suckers. Now cephalopods also have a very complex eyes, and many of you may be knowing that the cephalopod eyes are also used in the research as a, I mean, in order to understand better how our eyes works, and to understand the complications and understand the evolution, and in the medical field as well, right? So they have a very developed eyes which helps them to find the prey. So that also can be seen as an adaptation to the prey. Other organisms also have a strategy that can be called as hide and attack. As for example, you can see here flounders, right? One fish here, which kind of hide in the habitat, and the another one is here. You see, this is another wide eye flounders, and this is a gulf flounder, which try to mimics the background, and whenever the prey comes nearby, they attack to them. So that can also be called as hide and attack mechanism for the prey. Another example here, you can see a trumpet fish, right? This trumpet fish will always be associated, or not always, sometime may be associated with the groupers or the lionfishes, and suddenly it attacks on the smaller fishes, shrimps or the other crustaceans which are passing by, right? So, and the third example here, you can see the sharks. So shark has exhibited a coloration pattern which is contrast, or which is the which you can also call it as counter shading. So it will be light in the bottom and it will be dark at the top. So what happens if the prey is looking from down, then they may get confused that the light which is coming from the top, and they may not be able to visualize these sharks. Whereas from the top, if the prey is seeing bottom is a dark, so then again they will get confused that there is a predator, and they may go near to that predator, right? So these are some of the example that how hide and attack works in the marine environment. Again, some of the organisms have developed a toxic compounds, or have developed the kind of chemicals that helps them, and of course with the structural modification as well, which helps them to freeze the prey. For example, you can see this is a ray. So this ray looks something how this electric ray looks like, right? But bigger. And then they have a spine in the tail, and these spines are poisonous. So that is why it is also called as, I mean, some of them are also called as stingrays, right? And these toxic, these tail spines are present in stingrays, chimeras, scorpion fishes, catfishes, toadfishes, rabbit fishes, and the stargazers, right? So with the help of this spine, they may freeze the prey, and then they can forage or feed. Similarly, some of the elasmobranchs, so elasmobranch is a group of fishes which includes sharks, skates, and the rays. Okay, you may have heard about the electrical rays. So this is electric ray which produce the electricity or electric senses, amplitude of the electric currents, which can freeze the prey. Now, the similar electric field are also produced by the some of the eels, that is called as electric eels, right? So now you saw that there are some fishes which produces toxins, and then there are some fishes which freezes the prey using the by producing the electric current. This particular one is a very interesting organism which has developed a weapon for the predation, and this is a piston shrimp, or you can also see alphid shrimps. But I will just highlight here that why it is so interesting. This piston shrimps uh, is, I mean, piston shrimp produces the sound which can immediately kill the small fishes. And the sound, it's so loud that you can compare that the sound produced by these piston shrimps are almost equivalent to what sperm whales and the beluga whales produce. Okay, let us stop for a moment. I will show you here that how these piston shrimps are catching the prey in a video, YouTube video. So now you're focusing and then see.
The pistol shrimp is no bigger than your finger, and it's a crack shot. One of its two claws functions just like a handgun, and other shrimp are targets. When prey is in range, the claw is cocked. The claw snaps shut so fast, it fires a bubble bullet up to 62 miles an hour. The bubble bursts and stuns the prey. It all happens in a fraction of a second. The fastest gun in the sea.
Right, so you have seen that how this piston shrimps catches the prey. So it is having a piston which creates a very loud sound, and with a very fast bubble, as you saw in the video, and that stuns or that freezes the prey, and after that it catches and then eat. Right. So this is a very good adaptation, kind of, you can say, for catching the prey. Right. So let us have a quick recall what we have studied by now. We have studied that biotic and abiotic interactions are there. In the first, territoriality, and then in territoriality, we know that in order to protect the area, the organism shows the territoriality. Example is seals, sea lion, fur seals, or walruses. That is a group of pinnipeds, and they do it for the mating behavior. In the predation, we focused understanding the feeding strategies. So we saw that there are true predators, grazers, and parasites. And also we looked at there are sessile predators and then mobile predators. So sessile predators wait and let the prey comes to it to eat. For example, you can see here the anemones eating the crabs. And then mobile predators can move, can swim, and can walk. Kind of crawl in the sediments and then catches the prey. We saw that there are several kind of adaptation in order to make them a good hunter. So first adaptation is to have a light and then sharp teeth in the deep sea, right? Example is anglerfish. Second is we saw about the cephalopod tentacles in the suckers that can also be seen as a structural adaptations, right? The third, we saw that they have the strategies for hide and attack. It means that they can kind of camouflage into the atmosphere. I mean, in the water sediment or in the water column, and also using the other organism as a shade, right? Kind of shadow attack, and then lure the prey or attack the prey. Then we saw that there are some fishes or some organisms which are having the toxic compounds for freezing the prey, and also some of the fishes have the potential to create the electric senses in the for the prey. And then the last one, we have seen a very excellent example of the adaptation for the weapons for the prey, that is for the piston shrimps. And we saw that how it hits the claw in order to create the sound and bubble which can kill the animals crossing nearby. Now, if we look into the strategies what marine organism takes for the hunting, in general, we can think that there could be two ways for the hunting. First is that there is a competitive hunting. It means that whatever I will catch, it's mine, and I will not take anyone's help. I will catch myself so that I do not have to share my food with any of them. So you can understand in a way that most of the marine hunters thinks like that, and they have a kind of a strategy that me getting mine. It means that they will hunt and they will keep. Okay. Uh, Also, I will come back to this, but before that there is an important concept of the parental behavior which we see in most of the wild organisms as well. However, in the marine ecosystem, only if you leave some of the nursing marine mammal mothers, right, and the seabirds, most of the organisms do not have the parenting behavior in terms of feeding their offsprings, while many of the fishes do have the cannibalistic behavior. So they do not only have the they do not only have the idea of killing others young individuals, other species young individual, but they also kill their own species and their own offspring as well. So most of the fishes, or not most, many of the fishes do shows the cannibalistic behavior as well. So there is a one report published, I think, couple of years back, which shows that there are across the latitude and across the longitude, many of the species does show the cannibalistic behavior in the freshwater and the marine ecosystem as well. Okay. And one important terminology which you should keep in mind, a guild. So guild is defined as a group of species that lives in the same environment and uses the similar habitat or similar resources. Okay. Why I am saying guild is important here? Because whenever there is a competitive hunting or whenever there is a fight or competition that will happen between the guild species, it means that it means that with those species who are sharing the same geographical location and utilizing the same resources, right? So what we understood that most of the marine organisms are competitive hunters. They care only about themselves. They do not feed to their offspring, except in the marine mammal mothers and the seabirds parents, which you can see one of the example here, penguin feeding to the younger ones, right? And then we also saw that not only they feed on the other fishes, youngs and the small fishes, but they also feed on their own species and as well as their own offspring as well. Okay, so that is competitive hunting. Now, there is also a very recently known phenomenon called as the cooperative hunting, which you can imagine. Let us say lions. So, what lions do? They do a cooperative hunting that five or six lion or group of lions will attack to the prey and then they kill, right? Whereas in the marine ecosystem, it's quite rare to see that there is a cooperative hunting. However, there are certain instances which you can see on my screen here, right? The first one is groupers and the eels. So groupers and the eels, they were also, if I am not wrong, were the first one to find that these two species are doing the collaborative hunting or cooperative hunting, right? I will show you again one video how these two particular species are hunting together. But before that, let us cover some more topics. For example, we have here yellow saddle goatfishes. So yellow saddle goatfishes are not, you can again differentiate in a way that this is a interspecific collaboration between the two species, right? So between the two species combines together for the hunting. Whereas in this particular yellow saddle goatfishes, what they do, it's not an interspecific collaboration, it's intraspecific collaboration. That you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least in this screen, that 6 yellow saddle fishes, saddle goat fishes are combining their effort to catch the prey. However, as against how what it happens in the terrestrial system, that whoever kills, it will be separated. I mean, it will be distributed among all the individuals doing the attack, right? Even if one particular lion is taking the step and then catching the buffalo, let's say, after it takes control on the buffalo, other lions will come and then they all will eat the buffalo, right? Whereas in the marine ecosystem, what happens is that though it's a cooperative hunting, the food will be eaten or fed by that particular individual which takes the charge. Okay, so this is how it is slightly different in the marine ecosystem, though the cooperative hunting is happening. So these two particular very good example. One is the yellow saddle goatfish, which does the intra-specific cooperative hunting, and then the another example is the grouper and the moray eels cooperative hunting. Also, there is one example that also one example uh, is lionfishes. So lionfishes are very deadly predators. They generally do individual prey, they generally catch individually prey. However, in some cases, they attract the or they recruit the partners for hunting. And how do they do it? So when I say cooperative hunting, the first thing which comes in mind, how do they interact? Because for any cooperative hunting you need to communicate. Otherwise, how groupers will know or how eels will know that when you have to catch the prey, right? So in 2013 there was a very excellent article called as referential gesture in the fish collaborative hunting. Again, you can see on my screen, which says that they do this head signals, that is called as headstand signaling. So when headstand signaling, it means like you move your head and then indicate your partner. For example, in this case, groupers will shake the head and telling the eels that there is a prey, and then eel will go. And since the eels can easily go into the holes in the reefs, and then contributes in that way, right? So this is how the cooperative hunting occurs. Similarly, in the lionfishes, they start dancing, and when they start dancing, then more and more lionfishes can come to that particular location in order to conduct the cooperative hunting, right? I hope that's clear. Let us go to another video to show you that how the groupers and the eels are doing the cooperative hunting. So in this case, what is the benefit for the grouper or what is the benefit for the eels? So the benefit for the groupers will be, uh, how do they contribute? So groupers will be on the top of the water column that will shade the light from the eels. And when the prey is coming to the eel, eel will attack. And if eel misses, then what happens? The prey will try to go on the surface, and then there the groupers are. So likewise there is this cooperative hunting goes. Okay, before to run this video, I would also say that in this case also, which whoever catches the prey, whether it is grouper or whether it is eel, it's being fed by those which catch. It will not be shared. You can see the video here. So this is the headstand, what grouper is doing to the eel. And now the eel will come out and grouper and eels will swim together. Okay. And then again groupers will do the headstand. And and then eels investigate. See this movement with the head. Okay, and then eel investigates. So likewise, we have different ways to communicate among the, I mean, they have different ways to communicate among the partners for the cooperative huntings, right? That you can also have a read that how this headstands work, and how many time it is successful, how many time it is it just goes west. And again, the example which I showed is for the grouper and the eels, and also for the yellow saddle goatfishes. But then this groupers also forms the cooperative hunting or the collaborative hunting with the Napoleon races, with the emperors, with the with of course morails. So likewise, 3-4 different fishes. Okay. Now that you saw that there are the organisms which has the ability to hunt, right? So definitely it does not go one way. If the prey is getting fed by the predator, or if the predators are always winner, then there will be a fitness loss for the prey. So as I said, then that in an evolutionary concept, all the processes which improves the fitness will be selected. So I mean the prey will also not, you cannot say yeah, prey. So they will also develop, they have also developed some sort of adaptations in order to avoid the predators. For example, there are, suppose if there are too much of feeding on the seaweeds, then eventually what will happen, seaweeds will be lost from the benthic surface. So seaweeds do have the polyphenols in them that acts as deterrents. So the primary consumers will limit the feeding on the seaweeds, one particular seaweed, they can go to another. So in that way, they can be saved, right? So that is a kind of deterrence. Then also we have some examples for the crypsis. So crypsis is a kind of concept which suggest blending with the background. That all One of the common method of the crypsis is camouflage, right? Where you can see that the organisms blend with the background, and the predators will not be able to see, right? In this case, you can see that there is a 3 image in my screen: the first one, the second one, and the third one. It's the same place, location, and 3 different frames. You can see in this particular where is my pen? In this particular area, there is a octopus, but then you can't see that there is octopus. So when the diver went near to this rock, then they saw that there is octopus, and when they went nearby, then this octopus is now see how clearly visible. So this is an excellent example of the crypsis behavior, or you can also say camouflage to the environment. And why it happens? Because marine organisms do have the chromatophores, and that can rapidly alters the color based on the background, right? So that is one of the way. Another crypsis example could be nocturnality or mimicry. So we will see in the coming slide what it is, right? So first way of predator avoidance, we saw that production of deterrents. Second is crypsis behavior. And so again, you can see in this particular example, if I show you just this particular image in this here, you may not be able to identify that there is a fish in the sargassum. So these are sargassum leaves, right? And these are the air bladders, right? So you cannot be able to clearly differentiate that there is a fish. However, these sargassum fishes, or it's also an anglerfish, right? it has developed the coloration, morphology, and the pattern which looks like it's where it resides in the sargassum bed. Okay, so you cannot be able to easily see. In return, these fishes do have a kind of esca. This is called as esca. So that mimics like a potential food to some shrimps or to the small fishes, and when they come to get it, this anglerfish will feed on that, right? So you can see, or you can correlate that how I said for the deep sea fishes, they were also the angler fishes. They have the bioluminescent light at the top of the ska, which attracts the prey, and then the anglerfish attack the prey. Similarly, in this sargassum fish, first that they have the ability to hide in their habitat, and second, based on the ska, they attract the prey and then feed on them, right? I hope that's a good example to understand the adaptation, that predator avoidance. The third one is mimicry. So you may be seeing this, if you follow ecology, then you may be seeing a lot of this mimicry in the butterflies. However, in the marine environment also, you can see the example of Batesian mimicry and Mullerian mimicry. First, let us understand what this Batesian and the Mullerian mimicry is. So, Batesian mimicry was given by Batesian. It's a form of mimicry where a harmless animals mimics a dangerous animals in order to avoid predators, right? So, it's you can understand this in a way that there is a dog, okay, and then there is a lion, right, and then there is a, let's say, another lion. Okay, so now that there are two lions and then there is one dog, so the chance for the dog to be eaten by the lion is high. But if the dog has developed the mimicry which resembles to look like lion, the lion will not attack to them, right? So it means a harmless animals. So I am considering dog as a harmless animal here. So if a harmless animal mimics the dangerous animal just in order to avoid the predator, so that is an example of the Batesian mimicry. Okay. Whereas Mullerian mimicry is a form of mimicry where two unrelated dangerous animals develop similar appearances as a shared protective device, right? So now understand in this way that you have a dog and you have a cat, and both are dangerous. So dog also attacks, or dog also have venom, or dog also have, you can just understand it's a dangerous animal. And then there is a cat. So cat is also a dangerous animal, right? Now, if the cat knows that if I behaves like dog, okay, then I may not be eaten by another dog, right? Whereas if the dog thinks that if I have some characters which may resembles like cat, then I may not be attacked by the cat. So in this case, both the animals are dangerous, okay? But both the animals are showing some of the, or have adapted or doing mimicry of some of the character of each other in order to avoid the predators. Now, in this case, suppose if lion is not eating, let's say, any third animals, and a dog and cat both are showing mimic to some characters to that third animals, so even though the dog and cat both are harmful, but by showing the character to the third animal, it can avoid the predator. Attack from the lion, right? So that's Mullerian mimicry, right? Batesian mimicry, it's exhibited by the harmless animal, as I said that that animal which does not cause any harm, so it will be shown by that. And then Mullerian mimicry will be shown by both of, both the harmful animals. If you look this example in the bees, honeybees, and that those examples, then it is more clearly understandable. However, I do not want to give any butterflies and bees examples. I will give you one example here for the fish, where you have the juvenile bream fishes, okay, which exhibit a color pattern similar to venomous fang blenny. Okay. Now, in this example, until unless you are a fish expert, it will be if, and if you are just looking into the pattern, then you will see that the pattern is more or less similar in both the fishes, right? However, though there are differences in the fins and other meristic characters, but in general, what do you see? The color pattern. Now, the color pattern is exhibited by the juvenile brimfish for similar to what venomous fang blenny is, and that can gain. Then the bream gets benefit because the predators may not attack the fang blenny, so the predators may not also attack the breams. Okay, so this is one very good example for the Batesian mimicry in the marine environment. Also, in the marine environment, not only the Batesian mimicry and Mullerian mimicry works, there are also cleaner mimicry and the social mimicry. With the cleaner and the social mimicry, what I mean, there are examples of the cleaner shrimps or cleaner fishes which feed on the mouth part of the predator fishes. But the predator fishes will not attack these cleaner shrimps or cleaner fishes. Okay, because it is at the end doing good for the predator fishes. So many of the fishes or many of the shrimps will start behaving or will start developing the characters similar to what cleaner shrimps will be. So in that case, if the predator sees that particular prey, they will think that it's a cleaner shrimp and they will not attack. So that kind of mimicry also exhibited by the marine organisms. And apart from that, there will be social mimicry because we know that, for example, if you see the color and the banding patterns in the fishes, so many of the fishes, let us take one example in order to understand. If there are clownfishes and if they are in a social setup with the anemones, and if anemone is not attacking the clownfish, right, there would be some fishes which are exhibiting the similar patterns to the clownfish in order to escape predation from the anemones. Okay, so that's a good way to explain what this social mimicry is. Now I hope that you understood that the first way to escape the predation is by having some kind of resistance to as a deterrent. Then we have this crypsis. We have similar morphology to the host. I mean, kind of cryptic morphology to the host. And then we have the mimicries, Batesian Mullerian mimicry, cleaner mimicry, and social mimicry. Now, there are several organisms which also have developed structural adaptations in order to escape the predators. So in here, in example, you can see, or in the graph, I mean, in the image, you can see that a number of diatoms or microalgae are there which are showing kind of structural adaptation. What these structural adaptations are? uh, if it is being fed by the predators, one single cell is being fed by the predators, then they start living by joining the cells together, right? That is the first adaptation. So they can form a kind of chain, then they can form a kind of plate by sticking together. Okay, then there will be some which will develop the spines. So mostly these spines will not be preferred by the predators. Okay, then they may have some kind of hard shell structures, which is again not preferred by the zooplanktons or by the predators. Okay, or otherwise they will be very much elongated in shape, which is again may not be feasible for the small zooplankton to feed upon. Similarly, not only this is a kind of adaptation to avoid the prey, but also some of the spider crabs, for example, one you can see in the picture here, have a lot of spines. Now, these spines will help them to camouflage the habitat where they are living. Now, if they behave more like sea fans or kind of the habitat where they are living, then it will be kind of camouflage from the predators. So this is a good example of a structural adaptation in order to camouflage to escape the predators. Okay. Not only this, many of the organisms also produce toxic compounds. For example, sea slugs. When you are coming for the field, we will show you what sea slug looks like. These sea slugs also produce the toxins which are having the terpenes, and that can be poisonous for the marine organisms. So the predators will avoid these kind of prey because they will not be able to tolerate the toxins produced by these kind of prey. Okay, then we have plenty of cones. A lot of cones are there which are easily you can find on the beaches and then also in the subtidal areas. Also, we will have this black ink from the cephalopods. Okay, then we have the stings from the jellyfishes. We have a neurotoxins from the lionfishes. So this also helps them to escape the predators. Now you can see here how sharp it is. This is a lionfish, and in each of these projections, you have a needle like this, spines like this, and these spines can produce the neurotoxins, which can be fatal for the predators. So they avoid. Not only this macro faunas are having the toxins, but also in this particular example, you can see that a diatom or a microalgae produces the compound, okay, polyunsaturated fatty acid, mostly in particular to oxylipins. So these oxylipins can act as anti-predator, because when the prey will, I mean, when the predator will eat a lot of diatoms having which produces the polyunsaturated fatty acid, in particular to oxylipins, the cells may have the apoptosis, and it also affects their reproduction and the growth. So they will avoid, or they generally avoid, those microalgae which produces the oxylipins. Okay, so these are some of the examples that how the predators escapes the prey in the marine environment. Okay, I hope that now it is clear that how the territoriality works and how the prey predator mechanism works. I am not going to explain the mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism here, because every now and then it may come when we are going for micro or when we are going for autotrophs and other animals. Okay, but we will go a little bit more, maybe in a couple of slides I will again show you some of the interactions at the population level. So what happens at the population level is that it is how what happens even at the individual level. So in order not to confuse by giving more examples, I am just putting here, because even the population level interaction will be happening for the limiting resources. And in this one example, we saw that how the cells will be deformed and the growth will be shortened at the individual scale, will also happen at the population scale. And then what will happen, the population will try to move away from that particular native habitat or the niche, and then start going to the occupied or to the new niche, right? So it will happen in the same way. And one thing what we can understand is that whenever we talk about the population, it can be a meta population, that it can be a group of different populations together, right? And the dispersal distance will tell you that how closed or how open that particular population is. Because if it is more open and there is a more interaction, the dispersal distance will be higher, right? And again, not exactly, or not like you have to take it literally, but what it also tells you, if the dispersal distance is higher, the chances of speciation or adaptation will be lower. Okay, so you can have a closed population where there are several groups within the population and they are not interacting with other. There could be a meta population where everything is interacting. I mean, one is interacting with second, second is interacting with third, and third is interacting with first. Whereas in patchy population, you can have the interaction among all the different populations, subpopulations within the population. Okay. Now, at the community level, in order to just distinguish the ecosystem and the community level, in the community level, we are talking mostly about the biotic interactions. And ecosystem level, we are also talking about the abiotic interaction as well, happening at the, along with all the organisms. So now at the community level, there are two important concepts in the marine ecosystem. One is the foundation species. So foundation species are those species which not only lives in one area and supports the other organisms through the food chain, but it also provides what, a feeding and the breeding grounds for other organisms to live. So they may not be directly linked with the food chain, they may not directly link with the prey predator mechanism, but then they provide a foundation where other animals comes and lives all together. Okay, so one good example for the foundation species is coral reefs, or the other good example for the foundation species is the kelp forest, because these foundation species supports millions of species in one particular location. Okay. Then there is a something called as ecosystem engineers. So ecosystem engineers are different from foundation species in a way that ecosystem engineers produces the physical geography of their habitat. It means that it contributes. It means, for example, if you think about corals, then corals will, through their biological mechanism, they will contribute to the calcium carbonate cell, right? And that can be utilized by other organisms. So again, you can differentiate the ecosystem engineers in autogenic and allogenic. So autogenic engineers, it means that they modify their environment by modifying their own biology. Okay. For example, kelps and the coral reefs. Why I am saying kelps and the coral reef? Because coral reef, as I said, that they modify the environment because they produces calcium carbonate also as a result of their metabolism, and kelps, as a result of their metabolism, will do the photosynthesis and create an area or create an environment which is suitable for other organisms to live. Okay. Then we have the allogenic ecosystem engineers. So allogenic ecosystem engineers, for example, if you go into, I will give you a good example. If you go into the muddy shore or sandy shore, then you will see that a lot of burrowing organisms will take out the sand, right? And then as a process of their metabolism or filtration, then they will change the sedimentary habitat of that particular mud or the sand. Okay, so that is a kind of allogenic ecosystem engineers, and a good example is that mud crab or this fiddler crabs or ghost crabs. Okay, also a lot of worms, right? So these are the interaction at the community level. Also there would be competition at the interspecific level. For example, that can happen for the food, because you can see here one snail which is feeding on the bivalves, and then you have the crabs which is also feeding on the bivalves. So what will happen? There will be interspecific competition. This cell wants to eat the with the bivalves, and then crab also will try to eat the bivalves. Okay, so that is a kind, you can understand that they can be called as guild species, because if their habitat is same and if their requirements and the resource utilization is same. Okay, then there will be competition for the space. Even if you remember that Dr. Tinesh on Saturday has showed that how sponges grown over the corals. Similarly, not only the sponges grown over the corals, there will be different corals growing above each other or trying to displace the other and then try to grow over that. So those kind of competition happens among the sessile organisms. And again, like he showed you a very well documented published paper on the sponges, but here also you can see that there are several types of corals which are fighting for the space and trying to grow on the top of the others. Okay, so we are aware that there is a competitive exclusion principles. So competitive exclusion principles, what it says? It says that if any two species utilizing, or not two species, yeah, any two species, if utilizing the same resources, will not be stay at the same place. One who is faster or one who wins the competition will replace the one which is what do you say, which is not a very good competitor, right? You can also say inferior competitor. So in that way, however, in the marine ecosystem, we have several examples where the competitive exclusion is not working, and then there are exceptions for it. I'll not go in detail about that, but just in order to understand that the competitive exclusion happens at certain locations, because of which the habitat or the niche resource partitioning will happen. And at certain cases, there are no resource partitioning and they are living at the same time in the same environment. Okay. This invasive species, maybe I will cover when I will teach about the climate change. Okay. One more very good story, maybe in a couple of minutes I will tell. In 1966, there was a professor called as Robert T. Penn. He carried an experiment in the California coast. So what he did is that he willingly removed the top predator. So top predator in that particular that rocky shore was uh, sea stars. Okay. So when they removed the sea star, which was the top predator, in order to find out that, in order to give the kind of equal uh, possibility for all the organisms to grow, what they found that after 10 years, that this is a Mytilus, which is a bivalve, which overgrew in the place of seaweeds. Okay, so what he concluded that Mytilus californianus, okay, has competitive excluded the seaweeds which was growing in that particular rocky soil. Okay, now interestingly, what he found that barnacles was the inferior competitor as well in that particular area. So Mytilus overgrown certain species of seaweed in that particular location. After 10 years or so further, what another paper came that the inferior competitor barnacle has started colonizing on the top of the mussels. So not always with the competitive exclusion, the dominant competitor wins. In a long term, even inferior competitors which may not be able to directly attach on the surface for which they are fighting, but can attach on the dominant competitor directly, right? So these kind of activities keeps on happening in the open area, in the intertidal area, and also in the in the marine and the coastal environments. Okay. I will stop my talk here for maybe 5 to 10 minutes after understanding what this keystone concept is. So keystone species. So if you remember well that I told you the story of Robert Penn, where Robert Penn has removed the sea star, and then as a result of which Mytilus californianus grow over the seaweeds, right? And then what happened once the seaweed is gone from that particular area and Mytilus has came, what happened? The whole ecosystem is collapsed because seaweeds are the primary producers at that particular place. Now it has changed because the seaweeds are not there. The whole food chain and the food web is suffered. If you see in terms of ecosystem, then there is a shift in the ecosystem directly. From there, he originated a term called as keystone species. It means there are some certain species or some certain organisms which are very much important for the successful functioning of the structure of and the structure of the ecosystem. It means that one particular species, if you remove from the food chain or the food web, will collapse the entire ecosystem. And that species is called as keystone species. So you can see one example I have shown here, right? So this is what Robert T. Penn has found out when he removed the sea stars. then the whole seaweed ecosystem collapsed. Mytilus took over, and even after later barnacles came on the Mytilus, but then the seaweed are completely gone. So that's what this keystone species is in the proper functioning of the ecosystem. Now this keystone can be a predator, because you see here what sea stars were doing was killing the, or was eating or feeding on the Mytilus. So that's why a keystone species can be a predator, may not be a top predator, but a predator. Another example here in the kelp forest, when the sea otters, they replaced the sea otters, right? In the kelp forest, when the sea otters were replaced, or when the sea otter was gone, then the sea urchins came and then started scratching all the kelps in that particular location and collapsed the whole ecosystem. So in this case, sea otters were one of the top predator in this case, and feeding on the sea urchins and saving the, I mean, running the ecosystem balance. Another ecosystem engineers could be coral reefs, because uh, I mean, keystone species are the ecosystem engineers. For example, in this case, coral reefs, because it supports a lot of organisms, and if coral reefs dies, then a lot of organisms may subsequently disappear or extinct. Then there is a third form of keystone species, and that's a mutualism. So, if you understand from this uh, honey and the flower concept, then honey and the flower. So you can say that the what do you say? The dispersal for the flowers happens because of the honey, right? I mean honeybee. So in that way, honeybee can be a mutualistic keystone species for a successful uh, ecosystem with the flower. In the same way, here you can understand the zooxanthellae, because if zooxanthellae is gone, then the coral will gone. They are in the mutualistic relationship. So that can be seen as a keystone species. Okay, fine. And then yeah, we have already seen the interactions, biotic interactions happening at the ecosystem level, where we have seen the primary producers is feeding to the secondary, secondary is tertiary, and so on and so on, right? So we will stop our discussion for the biotic interactions here. In a nutshell, you can say that there are three kinds of interactions happening. One is short term, for example, prey predator, because once the prey predator comes together, prey will, I mean, predators will eat to the prey, and then prey is gone. So it's a short lived. The second is a long term, where you can see mutualism, commensalism, parasitisms, and competition. These all stays all the time among the different individual, among the different species, among the different population. So it's a kind of long term interactions. And then there is a third form of interaction, that is a non-trophic interaction, which is I mean, for which the good example is the foundation species and the ecosystem engineers, where the relations are not based on the prey predator or on the mutualism, commensalism, but it's based on the setup of the environment, which supports many organisms. Okay, so this is it for now, for the biotic and the abiotic interactions. So here I complete the biological oceanography part, where we have seen the marine zonation, where we have seen the adaptation into the different environments. We have seen the abiotic and the biotic factors, energy flow, nutrient cycle, and then biotic interactions. So ecological interaction as a whole. Okay.